Well, hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Lou. You are listening to the Raptors Reaction Podcast on the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. Raptors lose on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Toronto, losing by a score of 98-88. Hope you guys spent this afternoon largely out and enjoying the weather. But I know a lot of you guys are very taken by this Raptors Summer League roster. And so I'm sure a lot of you have chosen instead to stay in for the afternoon and catch this game or even go out and watch this game. And honestly, you saw a great game. Like this was a hard-fought battle. The Raptors were fighting uphill the entire game. They go down 16 early in the first quarter. In the third quarter, they get all the way down to 22, and yet they still make it a game at the very end. Of course, the Raptors lose this one, unfortunately, 98-88 against Sacramento. That knocks them out of contention in Summer League. The Raptors had put all their efforts into trying to win this one, and you know, I'm recognizing just like this, almost like a buzzing sensation in my body right now where I'm like really amped but also really disappointed, and this is just part of like playing meaningful games. Like the Raptors have, as an organization, not played a meaningful game in so long that it's actually hard to remember the last time that I even felt any sort of disappointment about the Raptors to this degree, considering the fact that there are almost no stakes on the line for a team. I mean, I guess the last time was the play-in game way back when. But, you know, like, it's a reminder that, like, winning is hard, and seeing the Raptors actually choose to play for meaning, choose to play for results in the Summer League setting does lead you to the very rare situation where you watch a Summer League game and you're disappointed. You're a little bit mad at the officials. You're, you know, a little bit annoyed at some of the players that were not able to deliver down the stretch, but also ultimately very, very appreciative for the effort that we've been able to see from the Raptors, because man, this has been a really fun ride. I think that more than anything else is my biggest takeaway, is just the Raptors fought this whole entire summer league and put themselves in this position where they were the top seeded, whatever. They're all 4-0, so like they're all the same seed to me. But like one of the 4 teams to make it to the knockout games here, and they run into a Sacramento team that truthfully looked really impressive, and they had lots of pieces, and some of their best players like Nick Clifford didn't necessarily even play that great. Devin Carter, who was their lottery pick from last year, didn't even play that great, but they still had guys who were able to step up and basically dictate the flow of this game. I mean, as much as we want to celebrate who the Raptors had and you know, some of the good performances, no one came close to the best player in the game, which was Isaac Jones, who is just like an end-of-bench guy for Sacramento. But in this game, he has 36 points in 30 minutes, including every key basket when the Raptors made a run. Like, literally, this guy stopped every single run, just hanging around the basket. Every little flip shot bounced in. It was an incredible performance from him. Like, the Raptors, the closest they got was a 1-point game after Elijah Martin had attacked a closeout, gone downhill, took some contact, no call, but gets the layup to drop. That makes it a 1-point game with 3 minutes left in the game. And right there, the next possession down, Sacramento almost gets trapped in the corner with a double team coming to the ball handler, but he was able to flip it over the top to Jones, who was then able to just flip it over his head as he's getting fouled, and it just rolls in for the and one, and he's just telling everyone, calm down, and it's just like, damn, like you actually cannot, just, you got to hand it to him, man. Like, he was actually sensational in this game. 36 points, 13 of 17 from the field, 9 of 11. But of course, you're not here to hear about the Sacramento players. You want to hear about how the Raptors players did. And again, like, this was just not a strong game from the Raptors overall. Like, I think we all knew that the Raptors have issues scoring with this summer league roster, right? They've been winning games, but it's almost exclusively because of the fact that they've been so good defensively. They've been able to force so many turnovers defensively. Even in terms of just their shot stopping, because of the way the Raptors are built in terms of the guys that they have, they're very small across the board, right? They don't really have a true center. Colin Castleton has been quite poor in this sort of run in the playoffs. He didn't even play today. He gets benched. Always Shamshe ultimately still very raw big. I mean, as much as we can get excited about a couple possessions here or there, the Raptors were very explicit. Darko said at the very beginning of Summer League, we knew this is going to be a 2-year process with Shamshay. And so you cannot be surprised when he has games like this where he fouls out the game with 0 points. Right? So you know that there's an experience gap there. Of course, they're just small across the board because they're playing so many guards. I mean, the amount of 6'2", 6'1" guys that they have in the rotation, Elijah Martin, Chucky Hepburn, Jamal Shead. Of course, they actually played a couple more of their guys tonight, even like Jarkel Joyner, who, has not seen much of Summer League action, but got into the first half. He's small. And then Jacoby Walter is like a little bit small for a shooting guard too. So and they don't really have a lot of true small forwards either. So Sacramento just had size advantages across the board, right? Isaac Jones has that size and bulk. I mean, he's also 25 years old, but he's just naturally bigger than Colin Murray Boyles. He's naturally bigger than Jonathan Mobile. And then, of course, he has the skill advantage to play against the Raptors centers in Shamshay and Colin Castleton. I thought Nick Clifford, even though he didn't go off tonight, but he's like one of the lottery pick or one of the first round picks for Sacramento, who's actually had a really good summer league. Tonight, he actually was quite quiet, but he was getting guarded by Elijah Martin, man. Nick Clifford's like 6'8", and Elijah's 6'1". Like, yeah, there's just size mismatches across the board. And I think the start of the game, Sacramento got a couple threes to drop. I thought they shot the three decently tonight, but they hit the most, like, crucial clutch three, like, in the fourth quarter, like they had nothing going on a possession. Jameson Battle was right there contesting. Mason Jones just throws up a shot over the top and it just rattles, hits every part of the rim, it drops. It's just like those type of plays, like they were able to knock down those threes. But they had a couple threes early on in the game, but also the Raptors just were not able to score. And then I thought their transition defense was really bad for a lot of this game, where they just allowed the Kings to get out in the break and build the lead. And of course, Sacramento just had the size advantage just kind of in general. So half court wise was already hard for the Raptors to score. But you saw the Raptors just, compound their own issues. Toronto had to call the first 2 timeouts just to stop the flow because they were down 16 points. And luckily, they were able to get a couple things from Jacoby Walter, who knocked down back-to-back pull-up threes and got a steal, to keep it at least in that sort of range. But right away, you saw the Raptors go down double digits. Right away, you saw the Raptors burn some early timeouts because in the entire fourth quarter, the Raptors didn't have a timeout. Because of the fact that, and I don't even understand this, but, there was a play that was in the fourth quarter where it was ruled that, Jonathan Mobile had fouled Isaac Jones under the basket going up for a shot. Upon the review, they changed the call from a shooting foul to an on-the-floor foul because they ruled that Mobile had slapped the ball out of his hands cleanly, but then grabbed Jones's arm as he was going for the loose ball out of bounds, and so he changed it from a shooting foul to an out-of-bounds foul. But instead of if you change the call, why do the Raptors lose their challenge anyway, and also lose a timeout on top of that? Like, that was like such a costly play in the grand scheme of things when the Raptors didn't have a single timeout down the stretch. You saw Jamal Shead, who gave it a masterful performance. I love Jamal Shead in this game. Jamal, for me, is like already so stamped based on what he's done in the league, but also just you just gotta be able to see how much heart this guy's playing with. But like, because the Raptors were down so much, because they needed him to will the comeback, he was so gassed. He could barely cross half court at certain points, and the Raptors just couldn't call the timeout. Sacramento's coach is actually quite smart in this game, decided not to call timeout, and actually just kept the game going, basically trapping him on the floor with basically zero stamina left. There was a lot of stuff going on. But ultimately, the Raptors got into an early hole. Then they kind of dug out of it. Like, I thought, like, they responded well. The Raptors leveled out. Defensively, they were able to be a little bit stronger. I mean, again, it was basically just Jones who was killing them. He had 36 points in 30 minutes, but no one else was really that big of a threat. The other Jones, Mason Jones, was able to knock down a couple of threes. But you can mostly live with that. It was really just the other guy who was scoring for them. Meanwhile, Toronto was able to get a little bit more of their offense. The thing is, like, it's different because the Raptors just didn't. And I thought it was interesting because I thought the Summer League team would try to play similar to the big club. But of course, the makeup and the roster of the Summer League team is actually significantly different than the makeup of the Raptors in the big club. The Raptors in the big team, especially in the half court, they like to run a lot of their offense through their bigs. So they'll give the ball to Jakob, or even they'll give the ball to Scotty at the top of the floor. They'll have other guys cut in space and get open and screen for each other. And then sort of run a lot of actions, through that. Dribble handouts at the top of the floor, high-low passes. Occasionally you see some of that from the Raptors, but in the Summer League roster, you see basically give the ball to the point guard, and unless it's like after a timeout and they're calling a specific set and they're able to get a specific train action that's drawn up out the timeout, you're seeing a very different style of game versus like a high post oriented offense versus a pick and roll led offense by their guards. And so the Summer League roster actually played a totally different style of offense versus the Raptors' regular roster. Now, granted, neither style has really produced great results. It's not like the Raptors have been a good offensive team, despite how many assists they generate in the regular season. And of course, in the Summer League, the Raptors' main issue was that they just couldn't score enough. And tonight you saw... Well, I mean, tonight, honestly, their defense was pretty compromised. Nobody really hurt the Raptors' defense as much as Sacramento did in the 5 games that the Raptors had played here in Summer League. But at the same time, you saw that the Raptors ran into issues offensively. And I thought Jacoby, even though he's turned it around by the end and ended up having a decent game before fouling out, again, on a very soft call, too, man. But like he had a really quiet game to start, and I felt like, you know, they needed a little bit more from him in sort of those in-between moments. Jamal, you know, he was doing everything he could, and ultimately he had an amazing game, but you just didn't see enough. Like, you didn't see any offense from Al-Rasham Shea. You didn't see anything from Colin Murray-Boyles, who didn't get the ball that much in the first place. So, you know, maybe again, like, I'm not going to, you know, put it all on him, but at the same time, he goes from last game having 20 points against the Golden State Warriors in that sort of basically must-win game to qualify for the semifinals. He was awesome in that game against the Warriors when nobody else was scoring. I mean, Jacoby and Jamal had a combined 2 for 20 from the field, but it was Colin Murray-Boyles who had 20 points on very efficient manner to score. But that was a very different team, because that Summer League team for Golden State barely had bigs, and so CMB was able to knock people around, get offensive rebounds, get steals, get in transition. Didn't see any of that tonight. You barely even saw him have the ball. On top of that, he had some early foul trouble. In fact, I think this was actually a big learning lesson for Colin Murray-Boyles just in general. You saw him make a couple of mistakes. First off, well, I don't like this, by the way, but like all of Summer League, you get 10 fouls, right? Like, so you get 10 fouls a game in Summer League. That, of course, favors a team like Toronto that are playing hyper-aggressive, bumping people, hitting people, you know, basically trying to foul every play and daring the refs to call it. And guess what? If they do call it, you're not going to foul out because you have 10 fouls. Like, there was a game where I think CMB had 8 fouls in his first game. So, like, you're okay with that. But come time for the playoffs, they go back to 6 fouls normally, which, like, whatever. Like, obviously, like, I'm not expecting games to always have 10 fouls. That's an entirely different sport almost. But it's like, how are you going to make them qualify for the playoffs on 10 fouls, and then come time for the actual, you know, meaningful games, they're like, just kidding, we're playing with regular rules. Like, you can't just change the rules? Like, what kind of bullshit is this? So, in any case, it started actually mattering what type of foul calls you know, the Raptors were actually, you know, going to do, because you had to play a little less aggressively and a little smarter just across the board to be able to execute. And you saw Colin was, he kind of took an intentional first foul. He was actually okay for the first quarter until towards the end. He took a more of an intentional foul. That gave him his first one. Shortly thereafter, he took a second foul that knocked him out of the rest of the first quarter. And then as soon as he subbed in at the start of the second quarter, he was pressing full court, tried to reach in and picked up his third foul. And it's like, dude, at that point, you just have to adjust, right? Like, and I know it's hard because the Raptors, you know, all-out strategy has been just to blitz, reach, press. But if you're just coming off of 2 fouls and you just come back in the game, and listen, in a game where you need your, like, big, solid defenders because the biggest threat on the other team is another huge forward, you can't be, like, reaching and picking up a third foul in that situation. Now, he was able to stay in the game, and good on Coach James Wade for not fouling his own player out by, you know, playing by the book and taking the player out with 3 fouls with 8 minutes left in the second quarter. But you didn't see any of Colin's, like, you know, supernatural talent, which is his defensive awareness, which is his ability to scrap for balls and get deflections. I thought his aggression was really lost after that third one because he's now worried about picking up his 4th foul, for example, in the first half. And so I thought that was a big adjustment. There was also another rookie moment where there was a play where the Raptors, you know, bumped the ball. The Sacramento Kings were like barely able to just even control the ball. But while watching all this happen, Colin just got caught ball watching and just stood in the paint for the whole possession. Basically, it was like a 6-second violation rather than a 3-second defensive violation. But eventually, the referees actually saw this and called it. And so not only was that an intentional, like, technical free throw for Sacramento, which luckily they missed, but that actually reset the shot clock to 14 and gave Sacramento a fresh possession, even though the Raptors had done such a good job of pressing the ball. And it had nothing to do with Colin because Colin's in the paint. That was all in the perimeter. but he just got called ball watching. It's just like these small things, like and it was very adorable seeing. Like, I think Jamal went over and hugged Colin, like 2-hand bear hugged him, and he was just like, you know what, hey, that was a dumb mistake, but we're gonna roll with it, right? And ultimately, I don't think it changed the game, but there were those type of moments, and I think again, if you could play this game back, and who would probably have the most regret, I think it would be Colin Murray-Boyles, because his whole defensive, his calling is as a defender. And if there was one guy that you needed to be on the perimeter or in the paint to guard a very versatile, very strong, a guy who can handle the ball, who can finish with these jump hooks and these like drives to the basket, would be like a guy like Isaac Jones. They needed Colin to do that. And so for Colin to lose that matchup, 36-4, while basically battling foul trouble the whole time, I think that was a really, really difficult moment in this game, because you didn't see. I mean, Mobo is probably your next best bet to do it, and Mobo is a really, really good player in terms of on the defensive end, but he just wasn't able to do the job either. And so I think that's the main key mismatch that the Raptors couldn't handle. And of course, between that and also just Sacramento getting stops and then just like running in transition, that's how they built their 2 big leads. But damn, man, you can say whatever you want this time, but the actual heart of the Raptors to come back in this game, they were down 22 points towards the end of the third quarter, and you're like, this game should be over. And most teams would throw in the towel. I mean, it's damn summer league. It's whatever, right? And to be honest, you just look like you have no answers for the best player on the floor, and Sacramento's kind of running away with this thing. But the heart shown by the Raptors to fight back and claw back, and in particular Jamal Shead, that was a beautiful, beautiful effort. In fact, they got it from 22 points all the way down to 1 point. It was a 1-point game after Alijah Martin took the bump, finished the play. It made it, I think, 83-82 at that point with 3 minutes and 15 seconds left. That's anybody's ball game at that point. And so for the Raptors to fight back within about a 10-minute stretch to get it to that point was incredible. And of course, there were lots of good performances in that time. I think the whole team did a great job of fighting. But man, the way that Jamal Shead played tonight, it was, I think I tweeted out, because the Raptors were down 15 heading into the fourth quarter, and I basically said, like, look, the Raptors need a minor miracle to come back and win this game. Jamal Shead said, yeah, I got a minor miracle for you guys. I got a minor miracle for you guys. And the number of plays that he made, one after another, this is the thing I love about Jamal. Is like, maybe the box score can be a little up and down. He's never going to, outside of tonight, he hasn't even put up like a 20-point game. You know what I mean? It's not like a dominant game necessarily, but he dominates stretches of games and he flips entire games on its head. It reminds me so much of what Kyle used to do. Kyle had the superpower where for 5 minutes he would make 10 plays in a row, 5 on offense, 5 on defense, and it will just completely change the game. And then the guys can settle in and he can lead by example, but then fall back and let other guys sort of do it. Jamal, during this stretch between the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter, which by the end of it, he was, again, so exhausted. He had both hands on his shorts, just barely coming across half, just literally taking possessions off during the game because of how hard he was playing. But this guy had a steal in rotation. He had a driving layup. He had a driving play where he got fouled. He had a play where he kicked to Alijah Martin for a 3. He had another play where he set up Alijah Martin getting downhill for 2 free throws on a drive. Then he kicked it cross court to Jacoby for a corner 3, drove in for a layup, drove in for another layup, set up Jacoby with another cross court pass to the opposite corner. Jacoby pump fakes since he hit the last 3. Guy actually sells out on the pump fake. Jacoby drives in, finishes a tough 2 on the baseline. Jamal Shead eats a moving screen to force a turnover. It was just like play after play after play. And then, of course, when he finally got a breather out, and again, the Raptors didn't have any timeouts towards the end, so they can't actually dictate when they could really sort of like get him out of the game. They can only use fouls, basically, or turnovers, I guess, to like really change like their personnel. Actually, it was just fouls. So eventually they got like Chucky Hepburn in the game for a little bit, and Jamal got to sit for like 2-3 minutes. He came back in the game, and as soon as he came back, at that point, the Kings were switching everything. He realized that, got a screen, switched a big onto him, then got another screen, got another big into him, made 2 bigs guard the pick and roll. Neither of them came out to the top of the floor, and Jamal recognized that, pulled up for 3, knocked it down. Like, he was 90% of this comeback. And that's what I'm talking about. It's that, like, run of just sequencing winning plays together in high concentration that flips the game. That was what Kyle used to do. That's literally what Kyle used to do. And I can't really give guys higher compliments. If you're a member of the Toronto Raptors, especially if you're a point guard for the Toronto Raptors, I can't give you a higher compliment than saying you played like Kyle, man. Because you know what? It was a bigger version of what happened in the Denver game, because the Raptors were down against Denver, their third game in Summer League. They were down. They played a pretty bad first half. You know, Jamal in particular played a bad first half in that first half, and then he came out in that third quarter and just made every play for a 5-minute stretch, and the Raptors had a 19-0 run. And that's the thing. Every time the Raptors did something good for them, it was Jamal first and foremost. And then, of course, it was Jacoby, because Jacoby made a bunch of great plays in that stretch. I thought Alijah Martin made a lot of great plays in that stretch as well. Alijah, was on the floor for pretty much all of that. He had one where he pump faked, attacked a closeout, drew 2 free throws. He had another one where, this was one of the plays of the game for me, where he's pressing up by himself, just one-on-one. Everyone else is in the front court. It's him and another guy in the backcourt, and he's pressing the guy. He cuts him off twice, forces him to go to his left hand that he didn't really want to, then poked it away, then dove on it. Both of them dove on it. And in the whole stretch of that happening, that resulted in an 8-second violation. And it's like, that was awesome. But also, I think for Alijah, it's like, dude, this guy just has natural leadership qualities, because there was also a stretch there when the Raptors made a comeback. Every call against the Raptors started making guys upset, right? I think Coach James Wade was upset. I think the Raptors players in the court were upset. And there was one play where I don't even know what it was, but it was like a bump, and then I guess I don't know, the Kings were able to reset. And both Jacoby and Jamal were upset and complaining to the referee. And you saw it was Alijah who actually grabbed both of them, literally one hand on each guy, grabbed them together, forced them to get into a huddle, and just kept them locked into the sort of focus task at hand. This guy joined the team less than a month ago, right? He got drafted to the Raptors less than a month ago. And we're talking about Jamal and Jacoby, who are the leaders for this Summer League team, the two best players for the Raptors in this Summer League team. And it was him as a new guy coming in to do that. Now, of course, Elijah's older. He's 23 years old. But this is why he's lauded so much. Not only for his physical ability, but the way that he was able to lead and his personality in the room. We've seen so many moments in the Summer League. I see him always in dialogue with Ulrich Schamche. Anytime there's a play where he screwed up, he'll come over and just talk to Ulrich. And it's again, I know that Ulrich is super young and Elijah's older, but this is a winner, man. This guy's not afraid to speak his mind. And even grabbing the two leaders of the team, being yo, let's lock in here. Let's lock in, boys. And it's just I love that from Alijah. And of course, he also made a couple big plays in that stretch. I think he knocked down a 3. He also made a driving bucket. I think he's just tough. And it's also funny because you notice over the course of watching the game, because there's something when you first get a player drafted to your team, the first thing your instinct is to go watch a whole bunch of YouTube compilations, and it's edited clips of all their makes, and then all their strengths grouped into this and all their weaknesses grouped into this. But the reason I hate watching those things sometimes, I'm just I need to watch the flow of the game to get to know what a guy does. And so having watched Summer League, one thing I noticed with Alijah is this guy is like bumper cars. He is either hitting someone on the other team, or he is getting hit and he's falling, but they're going to bump. No matter what, they're going to bump. And of course, you saw that bump that he had in the Denver game where he knocked Boo Buie into the scorer's stanchion, kind of by accident, but still, there was definitely a bump, and the guy hurt his back or whatever. But this guy is just always bumping people, and of course he's so strong and his center of gravity is so low that a lot of guys are just rebounding off of him. So watching him, I really got a sense of how tough he is. I think that he's so athletic that sometimes he's just getting into the paint and jumping and not necessarily picking the right finish. Sometimes you'll see him try to do almost the most athletic kind of bump, finish, and one kind of stuff, which is he doesn't necessarily always need to do. But he is of course smaller. But damn, watching him, I thought he was a huge part of when the game got tough. Who was able to sort of step up and still keep their cool, and I thought he was part of that for the Raptors. And I think those are basically the three main guys who are able to sort of, do some stuff for them. Now, of course, granted, towards the end, there was definitely moments of frustration. There's no doubt. You saw, for example, to end and to start the fourth quarter, Jamal both times got downhill, fed his big under the basket because he drew the help. So he's feeding the big. First time, Clifford Omarui, who has largely, I don't even think he's seen the floor, if not maybe for a minute or two so far in Summer League. But he came in towards the end of the game because the Raptors, bigs were so ineffective and also all in foul trouble. So he comes into the game, and Jamal sets him up on a lob, perfect, right there for a layup and an alley-oop, and he missed it, right? And then another time he sets up Clifford, who gets fouled on the basket, and he misses both free throws. That's 4 points in a stretch where the Raptors are trying to make every point count in the comeback. That was really tough. Now, again, I don't blame him because like it's nothing about this is blame. This is just literally, if you want to win, you're gonna have hard moments, and this is a hard moment. But those are 4 points that you could not get on the board as the Raptors trying to get over the top. Then, of course, you had the situation difficult at the end where they make it a 1-point game, but then somehow Isaac Jones comes up with another miraculous and one to make it a 4-point game. But then, of course, the Raptors get the ball into, Jonathan Mobo, and he gets fouled. Now, he should have finished the dunk anyway, but he gets fouled. He goes to the foul line, misses the first one. It kind of rattles out, and the second one air balls so bad it literally lands out of bounds. And it's just like 2 missed free throws in a 2-possession game late when you're already so exhausted mentally and physically fighting towards the end. That hurts. And of course, he compounds that error by the next time down. He's setting a ball screen and he moves on the screen. He bumps the guy and he ends up, creating the turnover. And it's just like those type of plays were just so difficult. And then you saw Jacoby get a little bit extra aggressive defensively, but it was weird because like there were a lot of bumps and calls both ways that just like wouldn't be called, but then some of the smaller stuff you would be called. So I think the inconsistency is difficult for players to manage because it's like, okay, if we're gonna call everything tight, then we know how to play the game. If we play everything loose, we know how to play the game. But if you call tight one play, loose the next play, tight one play, loose the next play, then people are gonna get frustrated because like, yo, what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? I can't really respond to the type of game this was. And there were lots of moments of physicality where the Raptors were able to get away with it and score the other way. But then you saw like a minor moment of physicality with Jacoby pressing on the perimeter. He gets the foul call on him. That was his 6th foul. And that was with 2 minutes left in the game. And like the Raptors need Jacoby. He's like their main guy who could score, especially in a half-court setting. So you see him check out the game with foul trouble. The Raptors ultimately, I mean, it's partially a product of the way the Raptors guard and play defense anyway. But the Raptors ended this game with Chucky Hepburn fouling out with 6 fouls in 9 minutes. Jacoby Walter with 6 fouls in 27 minutes. And Ulrich Shamshay 6 fouls in 16 minutes. Like that was 18 of Toronto's 32 fouls in this game. That was obviously 11 more than Sacramento had. Granted, the free throws are actually similar. Sacramento shot 33, Toronto shot 30. But, like, the Raptors had 3 players foul out the game. And, of course, towards the end of the game, not only the 3 players foul out, you also had the coach foul himself out. Because James Wade, who has been a sensation, I gotta say. Like, as far as summer league coaches go, I think he's really imparted his personality. I think he's really shown, even just his quotability. This guy's a great quote. And you saw, it was so funny because they try stuff in the summer league game where at one point the broadcasters and like on purpose muted their own mics on the commentary stand, and they instead turned on the mics on the court, especially the personal mics on both the players and also on the coaches. So largely you're hearing both coaches coach out loud with just like the ambiance in the background. And they basically tried it out for about a minute and a half. That was actually really fun to just hear that. Now, of course, it's fun because I'm a nerd, and so I like to hear some of these moments. But it almost gave you that live feeling because obviously, when you go to a game, you don't have the broadcaster in your ear. You have the PA announcer once in a while being like Elijah Martin with the 2-point shot. You know what I mean? But like you're not hearing like the banter, the back and forth, the description of everything. But you get to just hear the game noise and especially the game calls. And it was interesting hearing, especially with Coach Wade's like microphone on, you heard his like strategy of like yelling at one ref, but then being nice to the other ref. And then just like, he'd be complaining about a call here, but then with the referee, he'd be like, hey, what's your name? Where were you born? Like just basically working the referee. And it was very funny because towards the end of the game, the one that he was being nice to, he ends up, because the game was basically over at this point. It was like the last minute of the game, Raptors were done. They're done. Like they put their second unit in and everything. James Wade, and I apologize for the language ahead of time, but he goes right up to the referee and says, give me a fucking tech. Give me a fucking tech. And so the guy was like, okay, I'll give you a fucking tech. Here you go. Boom. Here's a tech. And then as the guy shoots the technical, James is still talking across the court, which you're not supposed to be talking while the guy's shooting the free throw. It's kind of like a unspoken rule. So then he gets a second tech and he gets ejected. And he walks on the court, does the Joakim Noah point at one ref, walk over, point at the other ref, walk over, point at another ref, and then he shook every single player's hand on the Sacramento Kings, then went to the bench, shook the hands of the coaches, shook the hands of the players, shook the hands of the second row coaches, and then walked back around the back towards the locker room. That was cracking me up, man. I was actually like, you know what, James Wade, go off, get more of the camera time. You are so good on the camera. And also that was just really, really cathartic, I think, because, you know, like for me, I don't really expect to like, what is today? Like, today's Saturday, July 19th, right? It's 6 p.m. Sunlight's out. I was just out for a friend's birthday party. Like, it was great. Like, I'm scootering across the city, trying to like hustle back to like watch this game and cover it. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not expecting to be this invested where I'm yelling at the referee, I'm yelling at my TV, I'm like clapping when Jamal Shead gets a stop, I'm clapping when Alijah Martin forces an 8-second violation, I'm like fist pumping when Jacoby gets a 3 to drop finally. Like, I'm not expected to be this invested in a summer league game. I know I'm a Raptor sicko anyway, so I kind of know myself, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, this was just so much fun, man. Like, this was just so much fun watching and seeing how invested these guys are. And that's why I'm like, in the end, I can live with the effort for all of these guys. I think, you know what, the good thing with losing, if there is a good thing with losing, is the fact that you actually take a lot of lessons out of this. And I know that sounds hard because it's like losing causes pain. And a lot of, it's like hard to cope with the fact that you're in pain. You're like, wait, hold on. I decided to turn on the TV to watch and be entertained and be invested. Now, why am I in pain? That pain can be very valuable because you're actually figuring out things that these guys need to do. Of course, you can kind of see it even in wins too. It's not like you can only take lessons away in losses and you can only celebrate in wins. I think that's kind of counterproductive. But more than anything else, man, like I think what I really like to see from this game was just like what guys needed to improve on. I think for Colin, the fact that he's such a high IQ player, and the fact that he makes so many reads and he freestyles so much defensively, it does mean that he then needs to choose his possessions a lot more carefully, right? One of the things with like the Draymond 2.0 comparison, which is just like, again, like it's a flattering thing. I don't know why people think that's not a good thing. Draymond is like going to be a Hall of Famer, right? But as anyone who has watched the Warriors game knows, Draymond has special rules, man. And it's not just, I'm not trying to take credit away from his defense, his reads, but you know that there's a different latitude that he's earned through his reputation, through his winning, through everything else. Draymond has a set of different rules, right? Colin Murray-Boyles, you could play like Draymond, you're going to foul out. Like, no matter what, if you try to play like Draymond, you're going to foul out, because guess what? You don't have the Draymond rules. You might have the Draymond instincts, you might making the Draymond rotations, you might make the Draymond strips, but there are plays that if you gamble, you will be called for the foul. Or in this case, you saw him come off his man entirely to try to come for a blind double, and that leads to like an open dunk on the rim for his man. Like, there's lots of those moments for him where I thought he needed to manage. Also the foul trouble, because I think for CMB, not only is he smaller, but he's, again, getting himself into the mix so often, and he's in rotation so often, and he's actually so good that he's almost, maybe it's better that he puts himself in motion so he's in more places at once. But that does mean a careful balance between how you manage foul trouble and when you can reach, when you can't reach, when you got to back off. If you just picked up 2 fouls at the end of the first quarter, you have to kick yourself out, and then you come back in for your second quarter and you immediately pick up a foul pressing at half court, and that's your 3rd foul in the first half, which limits your effectiveness for the rest of the half. Those are the plays you have to like really know how to manage, right? Like he's basically a gambler, like, and you need to know like when to sort of like double your stakes and when you need to sort of calm down and fold a couple of hands or like cool off a little bit. Like, you can't just play on tilt the whole game. That's how you're gonna get yourself crashed out of the casino. So I think for CMB, more than anything else, he had that. I also think that, like, just in general, maybe because of the fact that Colin Murray-Boyles was, not like, he picked up that injury in the draft workout process, that limited how many workouts he was able to do. Then joining the Raptors, then joining the camp for Summer League. He didn't play the first Summer League. I do wonder, because of the fact that he was, banged up, how much of, the offense was even set up for a guy like Colin, because Colin exclusively was getting instinct baskets, or I would say in the rhythm of the game baskets, or putbacks and transition baskets, but there were very few like let's give the ball to Colin and run a play for him type of baskets, and not even baskets, but just sequences where he's dictating the play. I think in college he was dictating so many plays. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he touched the ball like 80 times per game, kind of thing. Like a lot of possessions started with him in the high post. He would either choose to back down, or maybe he would face up, or maybe he would go in a dribble handoff and come back out to the 3-point line. But play was going through Colin. You did not see a lot of that in this summer league. This summer league, like I mentioned, wasn't like the Raptors' regular offense. It wasn't, running through the bigs and stuff like that. You mostly saw it run through small guards playing pick and roll. That's not the Raptors' offense typically. But I think that did limit in terms of just like what Colin could do as that. I think maybe only at the start of that Golden State Warriors game, the 4th game of Summer League, that's when you saw Colin Murray Boyles actually be the one being intensive, being the guy who was actually running the show. I would have loved to see a little bit more. But in any case, I do wonder, just because of the fact that he was sort of catching up to Summer League by this point, that like maybe they just didn't like. How are you gonna design an offense around a guy who wasn't even there? You know what I mean? I think for Always Shamshay, like, for me, look, the foul trouble is what it is. Again, like a lot of guys could not guard the Isaac Jones guy. But I also thought in this game and last game in particular, I thought Ulrich just needed to show a little bit more like aggressiveness in terms and decisiveness. I think there were a couple of loose rebounds that he wasn't able to get to. I'm not going to complain too much. He had 7 rebounds in 16 minutes. I think that's a totally fair ratio. But I think especially offensively, when he catches around the basket, I think he almost has just one thing in mind, which is that like, how can I steady my base and then go up for the jump hook? And I think part of the thing with like being good in the paint isn't necessarily that like you have like a set move that you're going to go to every time, because the paint is like the paint is like driving in rush hour traffic. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you got to make like you got to freestyle a little bit, right? Whatever it says on the map in terms of like drive on this street and then make this turn, whatever, like, yeah, you can do that. But like the key for that is just like when you can like you see the streetcar coming and you're like, okay, he's about to stop. You got to go a little bit fast, get past the streetcar so they don't get held up when the door's open. Then you can't drive past. Like, like you have to like zigzag and like really know when to go, when to not go, and freestyle a little bit, obviously safely. But like I think with Ulrich, it was just like, he only wanted to go to that one thing. And it's like, there are some times where it's just like, you know what? You can't get to that shot right now, but you can like throw up a little bit, push out here. Maybe you can't always go to the left or right. You can maybe use your left on this moment. There were a couple moments where I just thought he wasn't aggressive enough around the basket. I'm like, you're there. You're even getting the offensive rebound, but you're also always looking for the kick out. And it's just like, I think there's got to be that instinctive, almost like a poacher's mentality of just like, okay, you're in position, you're there, you got half a finish, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, don't go for the one that you always have in mind. I think that would have been a really, really big difference maker in this game, because Toronto just had nothing in the front court to offer versus Sacramento had everything in the front court. I mean, Isaac Jones was great, but even Maxime Reynaud, who was their 2nd round pick, he was able to get a couple of like baskets to drop and some pretty key ones, including one where he pump faked out the corner. Mobile just had a really bad one in this one, but Mobile like jumped at the pump fake in the corner, even though I'm like, dude, what are you doing? If the center wants to shoot a corner 3, I know he has a bit of that in his game, but dude, whatever, right? But like he pump faked, Mobile completely sells out jumps, and then Reynaud was able to put it on the floor, 2 bounces, go to the brim and finish for a layup in the 4th quarter there. And it's just like, he was able to make a presence versus, again, like the Raptors front court gave them almost no scoring, right? Like you had Ulrich with 0, CMB with 4, and Mobile with 7, right? And so like it just wasn't really enough from the Toronto front court guys. I think from the backcourt guys, I think Jamal, played an excellent game in this one. My only thing is he was a little erratic in the start of the game. I think maybe the Raptors just didn't really have good starts in any of their 5 summer league games. The Raptors were usually like kind of a second quarter, which was against the Bulls, and against Orlando, there was a second quarter team. Against Denver, there were a third quarter team. Against the Warriors, there were end of third quarter, start of fourth quarter team. And then this one, they were playing sort of behind the entire time. But I do think that some of that is just like, as the leaders of the team, you guys have to really set the tone. And I've always felt like Jamal and Jacoby eased into games rather than sort of like just taking control right away. And it's just like, there does have to be like that sense of like, we're on, especially if these guys are coming off the bench, right? Which they will be next season. You have to be on the moment you come in the game. There's no like wait and ease into the pool. Like you're jumping the pool, you cannonball into the pool. I just didn't, see that until like those guys eventually took over. I think Jacoby's offense, his self-creation was sort of more variable, but again, you saw just enough of it. Like he again he keeps getting fouled on pull-ups in the fourth quarters. I like that. I think that's where he has to sort of be able to create that. Like, yes, you can finish on easier shots, but like the difficult shots when you have to create something, I think Jacoby's shown you a little bit of that. And then from your second unit guys, I think Elijah Martin for me is just like picking the finishes a little bit better. Because he's smaller and because he has that like, rocket boots, basically, he's able to jump into the stratosphere. He still needs to pick the right finish sometimes, right? Sometimes it's not necessarily the exact right type. And again, the size is pretty big. Chucky Hepburn, I think like he's not really playing that quick, but he's also quite small. So like there's one play where you get the Gortat screen, which is you got a rescreen in the middle of the paint from your big to seal his own man, which basically means he's screening for the ball and then he's screening his own man from coming over to help. But like, even with Gortat screens, and if you can pull it off successfully, your guard should be able to walk to the basket and finish an easy layup, right? And even in that situation where he had one in the first half for Chucky got to the rim and he still couldn't finish the layup. And it's like, there needs to be more burst or just more separate or a lift. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just like, you're just a little bit small for that, and you just need to bomb away from three, which he wasn't really doing for most of the summer league. Colin Castleton, my brother, I'm sorry, man, but it's tough, man. He played himself out of the job. I don't even think he would have gotten it, but he definitely put himself out of the job in summer league. This was just an unfortunate performance, kind of in general for him for the whole run, and then there's lessons sort of take away from this. I think I was a little surprised that their undoing for Toronto wasn't even necessarily the offense, because Toronto's offense was actually, for their level, I think it was okay. Like maybe they were just a little bit higher in turnovers than usual, but like they actually shot the ball okay at 45%. 9 for 31 from three is not great, but it's not terrible for summer league. Got to the foul line 30 times and missed 9 of them. You do miss some of those, but more than anything else, I'm surprised because it was defensively where they got hurt, because they forced for the first time in 5 games less than 20 turnovers. Sacramento only had 19 turnovers. Although the fourth quarter, when the Raptors made that comeback, it was because Sacramento committed like 8 turnovers in a very short amount of time that really got the Raptors going. But ultimately, Sacramento got whatever they wanted. They shot 49% from the field. They got to the foul line 33 times. Their guy, Isaac Jones, like I mentioned 100 times, was able to score whenever they wanted. So weirdly enough, it was actually the defense. It was actually their defense that really sort of put them in trouble by the end. And so I think, they played hard, but it really did feel like Sacramento just had the best player and they were able to play better in the bulk of the game. But I like that they didn't quit. And also, I thanks for the chat for reminding me. The Raptors also just didn't have AJ Lawson for this game, and AJ had taken a lot of big bumps over the course of summer league. He just kept playing through them. I think he twisted his ankle at one point. He definitely stepped on someone's ankle on a May 3. He took a couple other bumps and stuff like that. He ended up not being able to play in this game, and I do feel like that is a big loss because, especially for offensively, like AJ was just such a big part of their offense. And honestly, on the defensive end, he wasn't great as a stopper, but he was able to like create a lot of deflections and like run a lot of pick sixes going the other way. And so losing him for the biggest game was also kind of a missing piece. But again, I take nothing away from Sacramento. They played great. They're 5-0, and now they got a rightful chance to play in the finals. So I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors, and then when we come back, we'll get to a couple of the questions that you guys had here. What's going on, everybody? The Hello and Welcome crew is officially headed to Las Vegas Summer League this week. What this means for the show is as follows. Officially, on the record, we're really excited to bring you the latest in the next generation of the Toronto Raptors and also other young NBA stars from across the league. But of course, unofficially, this being Vegas and all, we are really looking forward to crashing a few exclusive NBA parties, rubbing shoulders with some of your favorite media personalities, and of course, catching up with all our dear friends from across the league. And when it comes time to be reaching for a beverage, we'll be asking for a Simply Spiked for us and the whole crew. And here's the thing. The fine folks at Simply Spiked have been really kind to send us cases to try of their new beverages. And let me tell you from firsthand experience, these are very crushable drinks. The limeade flavor is a very refreshing take on the original. The blackberry flavor has a nice tart twist. And of course, the cherry one, you already know that's the bomb. At 5% alcohol and made with real fruit juices, they're perfect to bring to any summertime outing, whether that's rubbing shoulders with NBA people or just having a nice little picnic in the park. Pick up Simply Spiked at your local store, try some for yourself, and we'll catch you when we're back in Toronto. There you go. Don't forget, celebrate responsibly. You must be of legal drinking age. Hey, I was actually in the park. I was considering, if I wasn't scooting, I was considering bringing a whole case of Simply Spiked to, because me and my friends were playing baseball in the park.
Baseball in the park?
Yeah, we were playing baseball in the park. It was actually in the East End. You and I were both coming from the East End this afternoon.
Yeah, you got back a lot sooner than I did. Thanks for holding it down. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. I know exactly how long it takes to catch up on a game too, because I was in the East End, Jimmy Simpson Park, which is like real East End, like Easter River and everything. And was able to scoot all the way back. I missed the first half of the first quarter, but I was able to catch up on that first half during the 8-minute timeout, or at halftime. Jerome Chang, how was your afternoon?
It was a good afternoon. I was out over in Distillery District visiting our friends at Peace Collective. Shout out John, shout out Catherine.
Sick.
Where they debuted their Peace Collective collaborative flavor of Good Behavior ice cream. It is a pistachio baklava flavor, and yeah, I think you're gonna enjoy it. I think they're officially coming out in Good Behavior stores starting tomorrow. But yes, it was a good time, good flavor, and also very randomly while waiting for a streetcar to get back, I didn't get their name unfortunately, but I noticed they were just staring at me as I was waiting.
I know that stare.
And then I saw in their car they're listening to the Banter Pod.
Hell yeah, I know that stare.
I sent a video to you guys inside our WhatsApp group chat, but it was really cool. They were really nice about it, and so shout them out. Yeah. But yes, got back. Completely missed the entire game. Unfortunate that we lost. I read through the chat a little bit. Heard a little bit what happened.
Hey, if people lose, like honestly, when games are lost, like people are gonna have more complaints. Like it's
of course
not the natural up and down emotional swing. I get it.
It's also really funny just because it's like, going into Vegas, did you think you would be doing an episode today?
No, man.
Exactly.
No, I didn't. And honestly, like, good on the Raptors, because like even for me, like the most like let me love you rap, like I'm Mario when it comes to the Raptors. You know what I mean? I'm just constantly like let me love you type of thing. And the Raptors the last couple of years, they have not allowed us to love them. Like the Raptors are like actively like, hey, do not love me, right? They're
also in the context of Summer League, not a single team is looking to be loved in Vegas. Like that's just like you don't go in there. This is why the first weekend's always most important. This is why even when we left as early as Tuesday, we were the last people left covering the team at that time, because people are going for maximum 2 games to cover. Right. The third is usually kind of a write-off and a fall-off. Usually by the third game, you kind of already know that you're pretty much eliminated from it. And then, it's always like one of those things that, we get to a Saturday like today, we're playing in the playoff and like, I guess let's root to try to make it to a championship.
No, it was funny because I was like, the first quarter already began, and I'm just trying to like speed through and try to get home basically in time to cover and sit down. But I have like the phone, like my phone's playing League Pass, and I have it on my headphones, so I'm at least hearing the call of the game. And then I was like waiting for the light to change, and then 2 of my friends were like, Will, like they tapped me on the shoulder because I couldn't even hear them because I had my headphones. So they tapped my shoulder. I'm like, Will, like, oh my, what's going on? And I haven't seen them in a while. We were catching up. And then I was like, I'm sorry, I have to rush off. I got to cover Summer League. And then they saw me watching the game on my phone in the intersection.
Oh my goodness. And then that's a good thing they know, like they're aware that you do this for a living, right? Because otherwise that's some real sicko shit.
No, because like all my friends are literally going to have dinner right now. In the East End, and and I'm just like, I gotta leave you guys, and for baseball. Like
honestly,
after the first
I
inning
hate to
this,
tell you, even if I was at home, I wouldn't have probably been watching the Raptors. I would have been continually watch the Courtney Williams, Natisha Heidemann, Stud Buds live 72-hour live stream at WNBA All Star.
That's what honestly, if we did our own version of that, where all we did was just like use that pocket cam and to live stream the whole experience. We probably would have gotten.
There's no way we would capture the magic that they are capturing out there. It is fantastic.
No, but we would have gotten several people canceled. I'll just say that much.
Yeah.
And several people, meaning definitely me and Alex. You would have actually been perfectly fine, but
I think I would have been.
Maybe you would have been the photographer. You would have been the cameraman.
I would just keep on like tapping the mute on, like, what are you guys saying right now? No, but
Anyway, tough one, man.
It's a tough one. I understand people being frustrated. I understand this is the only Raptors basketball we have going on right now. So to be hyper-focused and to break down everything and carry it on to potential concerns or looking forward to the season is very valid. But at the same time, too, honestly, when approaching Summer League, you're getting as much information as you need out of like maybe the first 2 games. And even then, it's like a small sample size of what you can expect, hopefully, out of limited bench time.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. No, it's totally fair.
I'll ask you before we go in to some of the comments. Like, was there anything in this specific game that you found out about them that you didn't already know from like the first 4?
No, but I think I like seeing how players respond in moments of adversity.
Sure.
Like, even as much as the Raptors were playing really intense, I always thought that, like, the Raptors were playing harder than the other teams that they played in the 4 Summer League games. And then this one, they actually had equal stakes. And having to see the Raptors, like, how they will respond to each other. And, you know, there were small moments. Like I was describing earlier, like, there was a moment where in the 4th quarter, they were down 22 points towards the end of the 3rd quarter. And they're making a comeback. And then there's a couple calls that like stop the momentum. And at one point, like the 2 leaders of the team, Jacoby and Jamal, are both complaining to the referee at once. And Elijah Martin grabs both of them, one of them in each arm, and he just tells them, "Yo, look, guys, lock in." And I'm
I know. They were doing a little Will Lou over at the Aria. Lock in, just lock in.
That was me pulling Alex and telling him to lock in. Actually, for the entire weekend. But
I know.
Like those moments, it's like you wouldn't ever know that about them until they get into the trenches like that. So I actually do like seeing them play difficult games because that way you can at least see because I think character is going to shine through in the difficult moments more than in the bright moments. It's always easy to celebrate the good moments. Like it's the easiest thing in the world to do.
It's always easy when you're winning.
When it's hard, that's when I want to see who you really are, you know?
Yeah. No. I mean, like you referred to Summer League a couple of times over as a work conference. It really is like very work retreat vibes in that like you're really learning how to build up chemistry and again like to your point understanding people and personality maybe a little more than their specific skills but yeah, okay, let's go into some of the comments that we have over here.
Let's do it.
Thank you for starting most of these because I really had no context.
No worries, I just went back during
exactly
our ad and went through it.
Okay, from Jamie Co, their offense post Bulls game was always sloppy, so this was going to catch up to them against a real team.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting because like when Colin Murray-Boyles was interviewed after the 3rd quarter, going to the 4th of the Warriors game on Thursday, he was asked like, you know, like, look, what are you guys doing on offense? Because like, you know, you guys seem to be really struggling. He's like, the game plan is we defend, and then we'll go from there. And I'm like, that means we don't really have much going on offense. Now, like, granted, there were like a couple moments where you saw like more designed and you know, like purposeful sets. Like there's one where they had, I think, Colin Murray-Boyles run a dribble handoff, keep it, and then get a screen from Jonathan Mobo, and then on that sort of like pick and roll in the middle of the paint, like Mobo was able to slip behind, and you know, CMB was able to throw a pass over the top to Mobo to finish. Like that was cool, but like you just didn't see much of that at all. I think most of the time you saw like pretty basic offense, really. Like you're giving the ball to like Jamal Shead to work pick and roll, and he was like their best option by far. Or you're getting the ball to Jacoby to play sort of more one-on-one, or maybe a little bit of pick and roll. But like you didn't see a lot of like the type of, even the type of, you know, like when you watch the actual Raptors play, like a lot of it's like Jakob in the post, you know, guys cut off of each other off the ball, then come receive the ball, then you know there's like a whole flow to it. Yeah. It's still not effective, but at least they're doing more.
There's a system and a flow that's going on that doesn't necessarily yield results.
Yeah. But I mean, whatever. That's because the Raps don't have shot makers.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like, the process of it was actually quite different. So yeah, sure. I mean, this was always going to be their undoing. I actually thought though their defense was probably the hardest part.
That was the part that you mentioned on this that I caught there. Because again, like it all reflects like what their draft profile has been.
Yeah.
Like, they have not been drafting like shot makers, like just not a single one. But like everything that you're seeing, I would say is like pretty promising as far as like how they've been defending, say for like this last game.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean I saw way more positives than I saw negatives.
Sure.
Towards the end of this game. So.
Yeah. All right. Just a quick comment here from Joshua Monroe. James Wade, a real G.
James Wade is one of the breakout players, or I guess people from this summer league for the Raptors. You were there with me for some of these like post game. Oh no, sorry, you were always setting up.
I was always setting up. James Wade also was like coaching our media run, I believe, or one of the teams.
He was coaching our media run.
That's right.
Oh my god! What a glow up for him! My goodness.
If I'm remembering, because he didn't coach my team, he coached like the opposing side.
Sure, I think he was maybe coaching my team.
Yes. So one thing I
think you guys had Mike Batiste.
Right. What I remember from James Wade, which was very silly again, was I think Krina, who was technically our shout out Krina with Raptors PR, but who was technically our like GM, because like they were able to draft teams, like draft into the team, and then when James showed up, I think Krina had thought James was our coach, and so was giving him basically the scouting report on the team and told him that I was our shooter. And so all I heard through like the game was James Wade yelling out, "Watch out for shooter over there. Watch out for Jerome." And
well, I'm happy he did it, so I didn't have to snitch out like usual.
There you go.
That's usually my job.
Yeah, exactly. That's usually you.
Yeah.
So I think but anyway, let's go back to it. James Wade, real G. You also like, I'm going to just like feature a couple more comments that you starred here while you talk about him.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, James Wade was a very charismatic guy. Certainly knows how to command himself in a press conference. Often offers not just insight and balance, but also a couple jokes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like banters back and forth.
Charismatic. Like, just has a real energy about him. Yes.
He also just like did a great job of getting the players to fight super hard. Like, the guys played hard the whole summer league. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And then also I think it's just like reminiscent of the fact that, yes, this guy did coach the Chicago Sky for 5 years.
Right.
And I even remember when the WNBA came to Canada, came to Toronto, it was like the first like WNBA game, I think maybe outside of the USA, but it was definitely the first one in Canada. The game was, I believe, Chicago Sky versus Minnesota Lynx, which is pretty crazy that we got to see Nafisa Collier so early. But like, James was coaching that Chicago Sky team, and he was charming everybody. And I don't doubt the fact that his riz in that sort of preseason game actually is what probably got him to Toronto for the staff here in the Raptors in the first place.
We gotta really
There's definitely something there that happened. But
look, coaching does involve handling people.
Yes.
And so it is a very important skill to be a likable, risible, whatever it is you want to call it, person. Yes.
Yeah. So
it's also like one of those things that you notice often when it comes to assistant coaches. Like, I think it is always kind of like the bad cop of it all to be the head coach. But assistant coaches are like always supposed to be there to kind of like cover the fall.
Shoulder the cry on kind of thing.
The cry on all that. So like it is always a very nice thing to see them featured in things like this with the summer league. But then it's always like not really a surprise when you've gone through enough to know like these are always like the most likable people. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, fun fact about James Wade: he lived in Paris for several years. I think his wife might actually be French. He actually speaks fluent French as well. So I did see the French reporters talk to him.
Conversations with Archie Barrico.
Ça va? Ça va? Bien. That's basically it.
Yeah.
By the way, this is a good note from Loyal. Sky fans hate him so much, though. His departure mid-season is worse than Nick Nurse.
Interesting.
No, because he left the job as their head coach.
Right. I also love the idea that
hey, man, the game's the game, dog.
Comment from a person by the name of Loyal, which is fantastic.
You know what? That fits the theme.
Yeah.
Jerome, you might have missed this part because you were out.
Ejected.
But did you see the footage of me getting ejected?
I did not watch the footage.
Okay, can we watch? Let's watch the footage
Watch it
together.
together
We just won't monetize this video. That's all good. I think we deserve it.
All right.
From this game. That was the official that James Wade was having a pleasant conversation with in the first half.
This is so charming.
Dude, he's Rizzy McGuire, man.
Oh my gosh.
He goes over to each rep, says shit.
This is incredible. This is how you should get.
Right before this,
You're tapping up the entire opposing bench.
Dude, this is a delay of game.
Yo, when you're already ejected, you might as well delay as long as you want to delay.
Yo, this is amazing. By the way, before this, he legit goes to the there was already a foul on the play.
Right.
He legit goes over the referee, and you could hear it because I guess the refs are mic'd and he's mic'd, and it was right by the scores table too. So like the broadcasters obviously have their
just
mic.
like nonstop. Yeah.
He's like, "Give me a fucking tech. Give me a fucking tech." And they're like, "All right, here's a tech then." And then they gave him 2 and ejected him, and then he walks over and does this. Kind of incredible, man. I love James, bro. This is great.
I think for people who want to have a lot of like strong opinions and strong feelings about this Raptors Summer League team, like you just need to watch this video to see how important it is to see this development and first look at the players, but also how unserious it is.
Nah, this is cracking me up, man.
You know, this is like when you're doing like a farewell tour on your ejection for your final game. Like, dude, this doesn't happen at Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Like, you're not finding Rick Carlisle doing like a 10-minute set on his way out. You know,
this is like one of those baseball manager ejections. You know what I mean?
It's fantastic.
And it's not even necessarily a tantrum.
No,
it's more like a showtime. You know what I mean? Like it's
that meme where it's like fuck you, you're cool. It's so great. It was great. I love it.
Great crash out. Amazing crash out. Thank you for.
I don't even. You know what? It's almost like a crash in because there's nothing about that seems like he was out of control. He was just like he just owned the whole situation.
That's right.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right. This is a sicko question right here. Would you rather see him play like Millsap than Draymond? And Millsap, I'm assuming, is Paul Millsap, or like who are we talking?
It better not be Elijah Millsap.
There you go. Yeah.
That's a deep cut right there. But I agree. Like I think there's maybe more offensive sort of potential. I actually do think that Draymond, maybe in a different context, is more of a scorer versus just like purely as a defender, passer, distributor guy.
How many future Draymonds do we have on this team?
No, I mean, I'm surprised the Raptors never made a pitch to Draymond, man. This is like he's like forget Garrett Temple. They need Draymond as their vet, man. Oh actually, what make the locker room so toxic? Oh my god! Imagine if Draymond's your vet instead of Garrett. He's like, this is how you punch people.
Imagine if the lore is actually the spark of Toronto came in mind because he shook hands with 2 guys who did a podcast at a clutch party.
He's like, yo, you're Ice guys.
Ice guys.
You and us,
come on over, my guy.
We're basically the same, Dre.
Now that we know your name is not Draymond, like, come on over, buddy.
I was gonna ask him about Draymond, and he might have choked me out in Jardin. You know.
There you go.
Yeah. Alex might not have only been the only one in cuffs that night. Listen to the banter pod. Seriously, these are all real stories. Would I rather play like Millsap? Look, Paul Millsap certainly was a very good offensive player. Undersized. He had a great face-up game. Could shoot the midi. Sometimes could shoot out the 3, but like had the quickness and the body and the bump. To be honest, it's just weird because I feel like power forwards, just in general, are kind of just dead. Sure. You know what I mean? Like you see anybody really play power forward anymore.
What's a modern what's a currently is it like a Bam Adebayo type?
Yeah, but Bam does a lot of fadeaways and stuff.
Sure.
I mean, Bam also does a lot of dribble handoffs. There's like a lot of physicality. Right. Millsap will be really interesting. I've certainly for a very long time wanted Millsap on the Raptors. This is like
that was like one of those like Millsap to Toronto, like that. Those rumors flew for like seasons.
Oh, I was single-handedly driving those rumors. There's nothing more I wanted as a 25-year-old than the Raptors to trade for Paul Millsap.
Anytime that name kind of comes up, my dad would just be like, he was supposed to be on the Raptors. I'm like, I don't know.
Your dad knew about Paul Millsap?
Oh, he knew about the Millsap rumors.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. No, but he could probably do a little bit of that. Sure. But I also do think that like the player between the two of them, Paul Millsap or Draymond contributes way more to winning.
Absolutely.
But it's also Draymond's so contextual as well. So I think it's actually going to be closer to Millsap than Draymond, quite frankly. But
you almost just basically kind of hear that question. Like Millsap is like helpful to just like add a player to attach it to, but it's just like, would you like to see him play like Draymond with a little more shot creation and scoring?
Yeah, that's a Hall of Famer at that point,
yeah,
you know, because
exactly.
he's so good defensively. But yeah, I mean, I think the summer league, if there was maybe one missed opportunity, was that we weren't able to sort of feature Colin a little bit more.
Sure.
But I do think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he just started behind the ball because of the fact that, you know, he was injured heading into the summer. So I guess they couldn't orient as much of the offense around him. But it's all good. He had that one game.
He joined in the second game, so I think there was like a thing about him just like adjusting because they were really rolling in that first game. I mean,
he was also just trying to fit in, basically. Yeah.
Anyway, some more CMB talk. CMB needs to develop as a wing to be successful. That means off the dribble and jump shooting.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when the Raptors draft these, like, it's the same thing when they drafted Pascal. It's the same thing when they drafted OG. Same thing when they drafted Scotty. It's just like, this is the archetype of player that the Raptors want to draft the most. They love the do-it-all, big forward, switchability, and then they need to learn how to shoot. I think it's interesting comparing Colin as to, like, versus what Pascal was, versus what OG was, versus what Scotty was. I think by far the most advanced just in year one between those four was Scotty, right? I mean, Scotty wins Rookie of the Year too, but Scotty had a lot more complete of a game just walking in than those other guys.
Just more talent and skill, like going in.
Yeah. I think OG had a really quiet impact because he actually started for most of his rookie season because of the fact he was able to be so good defensively, or just from the get-go. But he was literally strictly a corner 3-point shooter at that point. Did nothing else. Really wasn't allowed to dribble the ball. Pascal was like a transition, stretch the floor kind of guy. Maybe jump around, get some rebounds. Colin, I think, is going to be kind of like in between. I'm hoping he's in that sort of somewhere in between where OG was as a rookie and where Scotty was as a rookie. And I think the only reason I say that is because, like, it feels like his body is like already largely ready for the pros. You know, like
he seems more developed than what you would expect from a rookie.
He's just naturally bigger in terms of, like, you know, he was able to eat bumps and he's able to play through a bit of physicality already. I think for him, like, there's definitely going to be continued work on his body for sure. Like, there's still like a little bit of, like, you know, roundness and softness on him. Very adorable, by the way. You know, he's like, he's a little pinchable, you know, sometimes. Right. But, like, I think that, like, over the course of his career, he'll get even more cut, and he's already put a lot of work into his body.
There's something about the stops, like, it seems like when offensive players were coming into him, like, it was kind of still hitting a wall, which is, like, pretty impressive for a rookie. Like, he wasn't getting moved. It's what it felt like.
Yeah, and I think the one thing with Colin is, like, he can handle the ball. Like, you know, like, even in some tighter spaces, I think he's confident enough to, like, take a couple dribbles. Now, he's not dropping people and stuff like that, but partially because of the way he played in his second year in college, like, he had to be featured a lot more. So he got force-fed a lot of offensive reps. I think on that sense, like, I think he could maybe handle the ball better than OG. I mean, like,
well, here's the question.
That's
just
not
like
such a big bar to hit,
right?
but,
especially rookie OG. But, like, here's the question: would you trust him with the ball more than you would trust Jonathan Mobo?
I don't think Mobo has a threat to do anything if he has the ball. That's probably the biggest issue for me. It's just like, unless he's right under the basket or he's in transition, he just doesn't really want to do anything with the ball, and he mostly is looking to pass.
Yeah, but like to just like kind of see like what we're working with.
No,
right
exactly.
Now on the roster. Yeah,
that's why I want to see Colin with it a little bit, because in those in between moments, whether he's like initiating offense or he's keeping in and scoring for himself, like, I think he has more intent to actually score. Mobo's mentality is basically like treating the ball like a hot potato, and I mean, yeah, obviously, like, that's probably because he doesn't have that much scoring ability, but, like, it does still, I don't know, I'd rather sort of put Colin in one of those same situations.
I think some of the unfortunate side, especially when you're talking about the Raptors specifically, is any new player or any new option in there is always going to be scrutinized for their ability to score because of the overall team's inability to score.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, all these guys are going to have to play, get out the mud, because, you know, like, the Raptors are going to have 3 non-shooters on the floor a lot.
It's really just on Brandon Ingram to, like, turn this around.
Hey, BI, man, go get buckets. Go get buckets. We'll get stops.
All right. Let's move on to, let's talk a little bit of Jacoby. Jacoby definitely got better at knowing when to attack, slow down, or take extra dribble/steps into the paint and finishing stronger. Yeah, I think overall, like, Jacoby looked stronger. Yeah.
He had one bad game, which was the Warriors game, and in that game he was still like a +20. Right, he just couldn't get the jumpers to drop. He went 1 for 9, went 1 for 11 overall from the field in Game 4. But in this game, I mean, it was more in spurts. I thought he was great to start, and then he was great to finish. But in between, he was like very non-existent. And so like, it ends up being a 0 on the game, which, you know, I think that's actually relatively fair for his overall impact on the game. But he finished with 19 points here. One thing you'd notice from Jacoby was he was really working on shooting the pull-up 3 in transition.
Okay.
And you know, sometimes he would hit it, sometimes he wouldn't hit it. Sometimes I think the rhythm is difficult because, like, okay, so you're aggressive, you're looking at the rim, and you're not really worried on the handle. Sometimes you just saw him like have a foot on the line when he shot those pull-up transition threes, and it's just like that's like a very underrated, but it's a very big
a real
part of
Trevor
it.
Louis.
No, exactly. Like that's like a Purnell type of three, you know what I mean, from our run.
Exactly.
No, but like part of that is the footwork to, like, if you shoot a pull-up long 2, like that's a bad shot, especially early in the transition. But
it's
like
the rhythm of like having your like where your position is, like as you're taking it, as you go into your rhythm of taking the shot, you end up taking a step just over the line, and then it turns into a long 2.
Right. And I think that like those are good, because I think those are different ways where he's able to leverage and create more of his own offense without having to like do the harder part of creating, which is like off a standstill, off a screen, then you got to get it off the dribble, you know, like that stuff he's still relatively weak at. But I think that like him being able to attack closeouts when he was able to do that, I thought he did a great job of that. When he was able to cut, I thought he did a great job of that. Catch and shoot threes, honestly, wasn't really that great at it but he also always took the right ones for me. So like I'm overall like pretty happy with the way Jacoby played throughout something. And then his defense, man. Like the game that he had 7 steals, and also the fact that he's able to just press and guys are trying to cut in and stuff. He got a lot of backcourt steals, man, and I know he has more of an all-rounded game, so you don't just think of him only as a defender, but he was such a dog on the defensive end, man. Shouts to Jacoby.
I
he
think
did
the
great.
defense is there, and like it'll continue to be there, and it's kind of encouraging to know that he won't be like necessarily a negative on offense, that we can keep him in for minutes.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so here's a bit of a general scouting report I think we have. Shead, Battle, Jacoby, and Lawson, only players that have a shtick at this point. Shead is a good backup point. Battle, a dependable set shooter. Lawson, good 6th-man scorer. Jacoby, off-bench scorer. So this is just kind of more of a general rotation and role thing. How do you feel about this?
I think so. I think one of the difficult things with drafting these do-it-all forwards, like these Swiss Army knife guys, is just like, you know, it is hard to just pin them down into like, this is the one thing you do.
Sure.
Versus like, I'm going to come in a game and then I'm going to do stuff. Versus, it's harder to do that, right? Versus like these other guys, like they're more sort of clear cut in terms of their overall ability. I think the thing with Lawson is just like him and Jacoby both are guys that you would ideally not want them to play one-on-one and sort of play within the flow and catching a shoot for 3 or attacking on closeouts or being in transition. But yeah, like I do appreciate the fact that Jamal really carved out a great role for himself. I think there's even a bit of scalability, man. I think that like he walked out of the summer league. For me, I'm like, Jamal Shead is the best player on the summer league team.
Sure.
And in the difficult moments, he was the Raptors' best player. You know, Battle, I think he's just a catch and shoot 3 guy, but also did a little bit better defensively. I thought he was solid on that end. If you're a 3-point specialist and you're not a defensive liability, you have a job in the NBA for like 8-9 years.
Right.
So he's done a great job for himself in that sense. Lawson's figuring it out, but he's obviously getting older. But you know, who cares? I really liked him, and you really felt his absence today. So, but yeah, I mean, some of those forwards, like even to CMB, like I'm still like interested to see what his actual role is gonna be. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, definitely. And like at least specifically when it comes to Jamal Shead, like you just can't like understate the intangibles that he has, like beyond like the actual play itself.
Oh man.
Yeah. Okay, well, kind of back to the Millsap and a little bit of Battle here. Here's a random question: would you rather have Paul Millsap's body or Jameson Battle's hair? One, I think it's a clear-cut Paul Millsap body, unless I think, is there something specific about his body that is?
He's kind of like barrel-chested, but I think more than anything else, that's kind of it.
It's like a square body.
we do have this on lock at any point if we need it.
We always have it available. We don't really get to see much of the hair there, but yes,
sure.
Yeah, that mask alone. I mean, Paul Millsap in that mask would be pretty fire.
But he just has such an intensity about him in that picture, man.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's the mask, but it's also just the eyes and overall. No, I honestly, Jameson's hair's fine. I think it's like he's got.
I think it's more of the red
his hair's nice.
of the hair. Yeah.
I have a little redness in my chin anyway, in my chin hairs. So maybe I can.
We noticed it on the trip. Yeah.
Yeah. It was in the sunlight as I was heating up my my leftovers.
Your facial hair and the leftovers were both heating up. You mentioned the cuteness of one CMB. Which Raptor had the cutest summer league run? Okay, so who are candidates here that we have? Okay, so I think CMB's in the mix, just on like this inspired the question.
Super adorable, right? Because he had like the guys crash his post game scrum.
Yeah.
His first time doing post game.
Yeah.
He also obviously had like the player of the game or something. I don't know. Apparently it's a coach player of the game.
Sure.
Which is,
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. In the Warriors game. He just seems like an adorable guy. Very pinchable cheeks as well.
Jamal Shead, I feel like is in the mix.
Jamal Shead always in the mix.
Super in the mix. Yeah.
He showed up to Summer League with a new look, so he like trimmed his beard and like cut it down to a goatee kind of situation.
Yeah. Then he let the hair out at one point, which was like a nice little switch up.
I like it. That was good. Jacoby comes in with a new haircut as well.
Yeah. Collectively, a very cute team. Period.
No, the way that they're teasing each other was awesome. Always Shamshay, low-key, very just like adorable in general with the way he moves.
Very much so.
Super innocent and like
there's something like for someone so hulking and big, just being like obviously such a kid still is very endearing.
He is such a child, but it's adorable. And then I think James Wade deserves a little bit of love in that sense too.
James Wade definitely gets some love for this one.
Yeah, but if I had to just pick one in terms of who had the cutest run, it's got to be Ulrich. Ulrich is just adorable, man. Yeah.
Ulrich,
he's everyone's little brother,
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because there was something very endearing. You told the story a bunch of times about his first summer league and talking about where he came from, and then kind of coming in and still with like more professional basketball experience, still having a lot of innocent parts. Like you mentioned. He still does the thing where he looks around at the beginning of the scrum and asks where he should look.
Yeah.
Which is super cute.
I've never heard anyone else ask that. I've been in a million scrums. They were just
very
always
thoughtful. That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
I know like in one way it's a bit like, you can call it naivety, but I think it's also just very considerate. Like so many cameras and just wanting to make sure that everyone gets a good shot kind of is very considerate and nice. And,
I'm like, Ulrich, look into my little pocket camera for me, please.
Right. But like one thing about being very considerate, it's very cute.
Very, very cute. Adorable.
Yes. All right. This one I did not hear, but did anyone else see/hear Darko's recent interview on the Speakers podcast?
I actually did hear this yesterday. Kind of caught bits and pieces of it, and then I ended up listening to kind of the remainder of it. So if I don't really know the background, but I think it's like with like a European interviewer, maybe Greek possibly, because at one point Darko reveals that he did previously speak Greek and then learned Spanish as well. Obviously speaks Serbian and English. But like, yeah, it was great to get to hear just maybe Darko's overall philosophy on life, how important religion is to him, why he's so invested in developing players in particular, learn a lot more about his family. Didn't know his wife was a lawyer in Serbia. And then once he got a job coaching in Spain, she gave up her practice to move with him to Spain to do that. A lot of sacrifices. I mean, if you study to be a lawyer and then you just give it up because your husband has a job elsewhere in a different country, like that's actually like a huge
because especially with like trades like that, it's not something you can necessarily just pick up because it might require re-education, recertification, all those kind of things.
Exactly, right? So Darko also talked about why he doesn't listen to the press and how like his biggest change from when he was assistant to being the head coach was just like giving up social media. So there was some good insights into there. I think fundamentally there was nothing necessarily new that I learned from Darko, just because I think that like his values are pretty clear, like the way he treats people, the way his approach. Like Darko's a very
like without
endlessly decent man.
Like you can already just feel his decency already.
For sure, yeah. For sure. But it's a cool listen. If you want to learn more about it, like go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think just generally, and it's always nice to because like obviously like when we talk about sports and athletes and coaches, like all of it together, it's very easy to break it down in terms of like the X's and O's of it all. But I think it's actually really important to be able to like not remove someone's humanity.
For sure.
And
Absolutely,
like just
always.
understanding them like fully, because as much as you want to like sometimes scrutinize their performance, like you still need to understand that these are people.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that there's a real decency and like a real warmth to Darko that you always sort of feel. He's both warm and also very intense at the same time. I believe that experience is just being called Balkan, but shouts to Darko, man.
Right.
Yeah.
You added this new follow-up comment here. Will Lou Boo Boo also a candidate? I mean, I think you are very valid in being a part of this, in part because unofficially, and now we can just assume that this was actually going to be the case, you were also due a ring if they won. So you're very much a part of the Summer League roster.
I'll settle for this one, baby. Settle for this one. One time you got to flex on us and really show us your real MLSE employee championship ring.
We did show it on the very first episode, I believe.
Oh, we did. That's right.
We did, but I'll bring it back again.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'll bring it back for? I'll bring it back for when we get to that particular game of our championship react.
Sick. I'm gonna shower you guys in Simply Spiked.
There you go. But yes, Will Lou Boo Boo, definite candidate. What a cutie. You gotta love Will.
Yeah.
All right. Finally here from Coco. I think it's cool that Jerome gets invited to ice cream premieres. I wish it was an exclusive ice cream premiere. They actually put it up on their page. They were just available from 3 to 6. So, follow Peace Collective for a lot of activations that they do. And I did get a specific email to note it, but like,
nice.
Either way, yeah. If I'm a free agent when it comes to ice cream. If you have ice cream that you want to premiere and invite us to have,
absolutely.
I don't need that lactate. I can handle all the lactose.
Okay,
possible.
All right.
Yeah. It's a little bit of
okay.
Canada flex.
All right, Mr. Lactase Haver.
Goodness. Yeah. But no. I'm here for all the ice cream.
Absolutely. Last night I had a great time getting bar ape.
Yeah,
long lineups.
I saw that.
Long lineups
with,
on St. Clair.
Alex and friends of the show, Joe Cash and Mark Savell, right?
Mark Savell, Adriana, his beautiful wife Adriana.
Oh,
it was a great time up on St. Clair. We had Marcello's, kind of a classic Italian spot. Kind of slept on a little bit. And then we went a little bit down the road and had bar ape. Of course, the lineups are always kind of nuts, but their featured flavors are quite good. It was you would love this. It was an Arnold Palmer twist.
Ah, okay. Is that then like a little bit more of a sorbet situation?
Because
like
I didn't actually end up getting it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they do a lot of gelatos because they're Italian.
Sure.
So
what did you end up getting?
I got this like a more fruity one.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But it was all really great.
Do you know what Alex got?
He got like a passion fruit sort of combination situation going on, and then he didn't pay for it because he was like, "Well, you should pay for it." So I'm like, "All right," but then Cash paid for it. So big shouts to everybody. Hey, Cash, man, congrats too. Big new life developments for him.
Okay,
I got a new place. This man
yeah.
nearly moved to Stouffville, but then we. With everyone's advisement,
where did you convince him to?
Well, it wasn't just us. I think he got a great deal, but he's now going to be resigning Richmond Hill. So.
Oh, okay.
That's right, man. He's making the most Asian move possible to move from Scarborough to Richmond Hill.
I mean, he already had his stamp, and now he's just like he's renewing that passport.
Leaving Bamber Circle for Highway 7 is the most Asian thing possible.
It is very much. Is that like an income glow up? Would you call that like an Asian income glow up?
Yeah, I would call it
rich.
that, yeah.
I do remember. I mean, like. That's where Alex grew up. It's where all the rich Asians grew up.
Oh, man, yeah. He's going to be near Unionville. It's perfect.
There you go. Love it. Thanks for the comment, Coco. Just, I'll be happy to report as many of the available ice cream things are going on if that helps everyone getting to try theirs.
There you go.
But yeah, definitely go check out Good Behavior.
Good Behavior is great.
Just because Good Behavior is great, but go to check out the specific baklava pistachio Peace Collective flavor.
Bobby Baklava over here.
There you go.
Sorry, Alex would appreciate that one. What else? Good ice creams around the city. Ruru Baked is also really good. Ruru Baked closed near Lansdowne. I think they're like moving.
Did they actually close it?
I don't know. The last time I walked by, it looked like they were like shutting down or something. Maybe they're moving.
I think they're still around. They might be...
That would be That would be very heartbreaking because that's one of the staples of Wardale.
It's the OG spot. I believe some people have. The reason why I think it might be the case is because they started doing their
like their mobile truck. Yeah.
And so I think people had thought the mobile truck was going to be the new thing, and like they were closing. But I feel like I remember seeing them like write something down in a story that says like we're not closing shop.
Okay.
So here's hoping, because that is a staple of the area.
No, that's a staple. Good behavior is definitely great. The bourbon butter pecan is also probably my favorite flavor from there.
That's really good.
What else are? I mean, yeah. Toronto. We're kind of like there's pretty good ice cream everywhere. Also, I don't even mind a nice little Kawartha ice cream, man. Especially when you're out in like the country.
Oh, I like an Ed's Real Scoop.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Woo. Scoop Sharania. Let's do it, man.
But yes. Well, I mean, now that Raptors Summer League is officially over, I mean, people who are looking for some more basketball, and I'm trying to get out of this podcast right soon enough.
I don't know, Jerome. You keep extending it, so I'm
let's get to some WNBA All-Star eventually. But before we do that, give me some 3 stars.
3 stars from the last Summer League game for the Raps. Actually, I don't know if they play consolation, but let's be real. They should not do that. Anyway, your 3 stars, Jamal Shead, number 1 in my heart, and number 1 in this game. 24 points, 12 assists. Honestly, he didn't outplay Isaac Jones, who was definitely the best player in this game, but damn, he almost came close to it, man. Like, almost single-handedly willed to come back on his own. Left it all out there, was super exhausted, but he was great. He was absolutely great. He was relentless for the Raptors. Your second star, I'm going to give that to Jacoby. Was good in the start, was good in the end, kind of disappeared in the middle, ends up fouling out, was very frustrated, but 19 points for him, 5 of 12 shooting, 3 of 10 from 3, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. And then your third star, Alijah Martin, 10 points off the bench, 3 steals, a block. I just thought he played super tough. Got a couple baskets to drop. Kept getting himself to the foul line too. I think that's just a product of his fearlessness going to the basket. And overall, I just thought when the Raptors needed a calm head to sort of stay focused and stay locked in, this guy was locked in the whole time. You never saw this guy lose his cool at all. By the way, not so fun fact, but I think it speaks to his resume. Obviously, he played for Florida last year, and Florida were the national champions, so obviously they didn't lose in the NCAA tournament. But this was actually the first time Alijah Martin's lost a game since February. So big shouts to Alijah Martin, who had a great run to the end of his collegiate career. Comes into Summer League, brings a lot of winning habits, and played well tonight. The loss was definitely not on him. Your Gerald Henderson Award winner, Isaac Jones, bro. I'm gonna be watching Sacramento, and I better see Isaac Jones in the game, man. This guy was so good. He's big. He's got great hands. He's got some size to like be able to bully regular forwards, and then some quickness to sort of drive around bigs, and could also shot the 3 a little bit. I was like, this guy was so impressive. 36 points. 13 of 17 shooting from the field, 9 of 11 from the free throw line. Big body, just hurt the Raptors, stopped every run. Like, I can't believe it, man. I could not believe how good he was. So, that's it. That's the last Raptors Summer League game. Appreciate all of you guys seriously so much for coming on this journey. I think we'll wrap out Summer League next week. We'll sort of like do a debrief, talk about what each player sort of showed us, maybe what they can show a little bit more of, and basically just sort of put a bow on this like brief summertime look into the young players on the Raptors, obviously the new drafted players, the sophomores returning, and maybe just sort of like evaluate sort of where these guys are. But huge thanks to all of you for listening and tapping into all our Summer League coverage. It's not over, by the way, because we also have a bunch of interviews that we have yet to release. So look out for those next week. The Jamal Shead one, I have to say, was very good. Not because of me, but because Jamal himself is just a great interview in general. And so I think that you should definitely look out for that next week. But otherwise, we'll be kind of like, we've obviously been going hard between Vegas and the Summer League games themselves, but of course we'll scale back because the Raptors are kind of officially in off-season mode now that the last order of business for this summer is complete with the Summer League being over. So appreciate all of you guys for tapping in. Thanks so much. I know we had a lot of interest in the Summer League coverage. I think that speaks to just how hard the Raptors played, and we can all be really proud of this team. I certainly was very, very proud of just how the Raptors played and made sort of these games feel important, even though they were just largely exhibition games for anything else. So appreciate all of you guys for listening. This has been a Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway, and we will catch you next week, probably on Monday. We'll wrap out everything else at that time. Peace.